Hi, my name's Dr. Padilla. I'm a professor in computer science and psychology, and I have been a faculty member for over 5 years. Today I wanted to talk to you about a topic that I get lots of questions about, particularly because I have this YouTube channel, and it is how to establish an online presence as an academic. Now, this is a very touchy, maybe uncomfortable topic for you, oftentimes because academics are trained in lots of different things. You're an expert in something, but probably not presenting yourself on the internet. And you might have even decided to go into academia to avoid having to do things like care about your presentation. But for better or for worse, some degree of your success will be tied to how you present yourself online and how people perceive you. So I wanted to give you my tips as someone who has thought deeply about this for really taking control of the narrative and making sure that you're presenting yourself effectively. That will help increase your citation rates and open up a lot of opportunities for you in the future. So let's talk about who this video is for. If you are considering a career in academia, this might be you as an undergraduate student thinking about going into graduate school. Maybe you're a current graduate student trying to increase the rate of your citations. Maybe you're a postdoc or even in an academic position currently. This video is for you. It's really tailored for people in academia. There's lots of other good content online about how to increase your brand recognition, etc. This is specifically for people in academia. Let's start by addressing the elephant in the room, which is, why do you need an online presence at all? Is it necessary? Is it important? The truth is that you will be going up for various positions, promotions, etc. And part of what will happen is people will look to your online record to evaluate you. So for example, I'm evaluating faculty applicants to come to my university. And among the things we do is we Google people. If a student applies to work with me, I Google them and see kind of what comes up. So the way that you present yourself online has a big impact on how people think about you. The other major thing to consider is that a big part of this is about advertising. I find that there's some people who have really brilliant research, really fantastic, but they don't advertise their work at all, so it gets cited less. And that is an unfortunate reality of how modern communication works. Right now, there's so many papers being published that it is impossible to keep up on all of them. So the work that tends to be cited more is by the individuals who are really advertising their work, making it known to other people. So you want to be doing that as well to make sure that your really excellent work gets known by people who should be reading it. Now I wanted to dive into the 4 required elements that I think you should have for your online presence. And these are things that I have seen be very successful for myself and for the other people in my field who are successful. Now I have tried everything in terms of an online presence. So I'm really giving you just the things that I think are a core component, the required elements of your online presence. The first one is a LinkedIn account. Now, LinkedIn accounts, they're part of social media, of course, but LinkedIn is unique in the sense that it has a verification component to it, where it verifies a particular institution that you're in. So for that reason, people tend to look to LinkedIn as a more secure type of social media, where they will look up if you are in fact at the institution that you claim to be and kind of verify elements of your CV. So it's very important to have a LinkedIn account. Go ahead and make one, even if you don't have one. But what I don't think is necessary for a LinkedIn account is to go as hard as the people in industry do. They use LinkedIn for a ton of different things. They have things like reviews that you can give individuals that you work with, etc. I don't think that's necessary. I think the minimum requirement for a LinkedIn account is to ensure that you verify the places that you've worked and have the information for these other components available on that LinkedIn account. Okay, the second required item that I think is in fact required is a professional website. I really think you need one. I think if you don't have one, it looks negatively on your evaluation throughout the whole field, basically. So what is a personal website? A personal website doesn't have to be fancy. I'm talking a single page that almost serves as a digital form of your CV. So it's going to have your photograph on it, which is important, a headshot of you. It's going to have a list of the places that you've worked, maybe a bio or a description of who you are, and a list of your publications. That's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be something fancy or something crazy. You can make them beautiful if you want to, if you're into that. By all means, knock yourself out. But I think the bare minimum is a single page with relevant details. So when people Google you, they can see where you're working at currently. What can happen is You might be at a particular institution, maybe you did your undergrad at X university, and there's content from that university about you. So when someone Googles you, they might see that university, even though maybe you might be at a different university now. So if you have your own dedicated webpage where you have up-to-date information, it can be a way to kind of make sure that people have the correct information about you. And I think that is very, very necessary. Now, it becomes more and more necessary the further along you get in your process. If you're an undergrad, not as necessary, but I would say undergrads who apply to work with me and they do have a personal webpage, they are already leagues ahead of everyone else. It shows a level of commitment and engagement that I think is really useful. Postdocs, definitely. Graduate students, I definitely think you should have a personal webpage, and absolutely if you're a faculty member as well. Now, it may seem very daunting to create a webpage, and I'm going to do a dedicated video that does a few things. In one video, I want to review the different content management systems that you can use to build a webpage. These are services that you can use that will help you build some of the HTML for you, essentially. So that's one approach. I also am going to do a video that helps you build a free web page for yourself that's just a one-pager in HTML. I have actually taught content management systems and HTML before, so I'm happy to do that if you're interested. Please like this video if that is interesting to you, and it'll give me a clue if you are interested in that type of content. But I absolutely get it. A web page can be very scary, particularly if you're not technologically savvy, but I think it is necessary, and it will help you control the narrative about how you are presented online. Now, the third required element is a way to get the word out about what you're doing. This is things like news that might be happening to you, exciting publications, and just begin a dialogue with your community. So you might be feeling it. I'm alluding to social media in some capacity. When I bring this up to researchers and scholars, there's always pushback because they hate social media. I hate social media. It's awful, right? It's probably proven at this point to be bad for your health, and I get it. I definitely get it. So if you're someone who just cannot engage in social media, I understand. But what you do need, my actual third required element, is a way to communicate with your audience. So it doesn't have to be social media, but it has to be something. You need a way to convey what you're doing and what you've done to the world. If you don't advertise your work, no one will, okay? No one's going to go through and say, look at this amazing paper, right? You have to be the person doing it. I think something that we don't expect as academics is that being a scholar is like running a small business. So you kind of have to have a marketing team and a research team and all these different teams, which you have to be. So you have to have that marketing component of the work. An example from my life that I like to share is in 2017, I joined Twitter, or X. And just by joining, I saw a double in my citation record. And then when I got serious about advertising my work and talking about my work, I also saw a twice increase in my citations. This is just from one social media platform and talking about my work. I will say it is always uncomfortable to talk about your work. You're gonna feel like, you're always that person who's seeking attention or something. And I get it. I feel that way every time. I hate it. Every social media post that I post, I hate and I cringe, but it's how people get to know you and your work. I don't cringe when I see other people posting information. I'm just excited to know what they're doing, what they're up to. So just recognize that it will feel weird and wrong for you to do it, but it doesn't feel weird and wrong to read someone else's. So just ignore that feeling and advertise things that you have done. So this includes advertising any piece of news that has happened to you, any types of accomplishments that come up. If you want to get more engaged in social media, another thing you can do is support and advertise others. So what I found really helped pump up my online presence was to follow all of the major accounts in my field. So looking at, the most senior people, following them, and then advertising some of what they're doing, reposting what they're doing, being excited and encouraging for what they're doing. That doesn't take you, posting stuff about yourself. It's really just amplifying what other people are doing. And that starts to build a sense of community, and it will help you grow your following by simply kind of amping up what other people are doing. Another way to do this that isn't social media is to do something like have a blog. Blogs are really great opportunities to share your ideas, even if they're not in published form. I know several successful scholars that have really amplified their voice by having blogs. Along that line is a podcast. Maybe that's within your wheelhouse to have a podcast. That is a great option as well. You could have a YouTube channel. Another great option. I've tried all of these, and I will say there's some that work for me and some that don't. And you don't have to do all of them. Just find the one that uniquely suits you. Something that is more tolerable than other things. For example, I have dyslexia, so I write very slowly. I've tried to write blogs before. I can't do it. It just takes me too long to do. I can make video content very easily and I enjoy it. I actually get some nourishment, some energy from doing this type of thing. So I focus more on this type of content. But find what works for you and lean into it. You have to communicate with the world around you, otherwise your work is going to go unnoticed. Okay, the fourth item that I think is necessary and is again going to be uncomfortable is a professional headshot. I think you need one. And maybe you're a good photographer. Maybe you can take a nice headshot of yourself. Great. But I think it needs to have some requirements. It needs to show you in a very professional light. Think corporate headshot, which are always boring, of course, but I think you have to have one. And this brings me to another point, which is you need to think about the presence that you've put online historically, maybe being a little different than your professional online presence. So your professional headshot, you want to look like someone who's intelligent, a scholar who can lead a group, potentially, who can lead research projects. That might be very different than how you've presented yourself online in other contexts. So if you have another online presence that is not professional, I would encourage you to take this opportunity to define your professional persona, who you are, who you want to be seen as. And think of the headshot and all these other things that I've talked about as a way of communicating that to people. It is okay to some degree to have another, life on the internet beyond your professional world, but do recognize that people will find that. It will be available for the world. It can be hard to, in some ways, be two things at once. People like to categorize you. So they're going to try to categorize you as one thing or another. So if you have an online persona that has many different elements in addition to your professional persona, that's just harder for people to reconcile. So just be aware that it will be harder for you to establish your professional persona if you have a long history of having other communication online. I went ahead and I made sure that my online communication is strictly professional. That's a choice that I made. You might not want to make that same choice, and I get it. Just be aware that people will see all of it. It is all available. So this can get tricky when maybe you have multiple things that you want to do. For example, maybe you have a cause or something else that is important to you that you want to represent and advocate while being an academic. And I get that, I understand that. I think that it just becomes more challenging for people to see you as an academic if they have to see you as an academic and something else. People just want to categorize you. So it makes that categorization really challenging. So you do want to think about it very carefully if you want to be an academic plus something else with your online presence. I would encourage you maybe to have a academic presence and then a personal presence that are separate from one another. That's a way to separate it out. Or if you truly want those two things to come together, think about what elements of that personal thing that you would like to advocate for is informing your life as an academic. For example, if you teach in biology and maybe you're, in a metal rock band, does that band performance or your skills in a metal rock band impact your ability to be a biologist? Probably not. Does it help it? Does it hurt it? Probably not. So maybe it's not necessary. But I think you have to make that decision for yourself and just recognize that each online element doesn't have to be all of you. You don't have to bare your soul to the world in your online presence. In fact, you can hold some things personal and private that might actually be very appropriate in professional settings. Academic settings are like any other professional setting. There's some things that are appropriate and some things that are not to bring into that setting. So just be very mindful with what you're choosing to share and what you're choosing to advocate with your online presence. And after saying all of that, the headshot is an important component. So I would encourage you to think deeply about how to put that together. When I was originally doing my very first headshots, when I was applying to faculty positions, I made a mood board with all of the headshots of the famous women in my field who I looked up to. This is very embarrassing, but they all had the same haircut, right? The same bob haircut. And I was like, well, do I have to have this haircut to be a professor? And I said, you know, to heck with it, and I got the same haircut, right? 'Cause I didn't know what it was that made them successful. It was obviously their research, but if everyone's doing the same thing, not being a person who's doing it might set me apart. So that's to say, I've thought very deeply about my headshots throughout my career. I don't think you need to get a haircut. Please don't go out and be like me. But you should really think deeply about what you want to convey. And I'll do a whole video showing you my evolution of my headshots, maybe just to give you some ideas or thoughts when scheduling yours. I think you can do it yourself. I think that's fine. If you have a friend who can do it, that's even better, because they'll be able to see elements of you that you can't see or that maybe you're uncomfortable with. Even better is a professional headshot. If you can afford it, I say get a professional headshot. And there is a range of prices. My first one I got, I think, was $125, and they go up to $800 for a whole shoot. But if you can afford it, definitely consider it. It is something that you'll use over and over and over again, and really is worth the price. And I think other things are not worth the price, but I think the professional headshot is. The last piece of parting advice I'll give you for building up your online presence as an academic is to consider the unique aspects of your field. Each field has different ways that they communicate with one another. My field actually has a Slack page that the junior faculty are very active on. So that's a really great place for us to connect and to kind of amplify each other's work, answer questions. Your field will probably be something different. Maybe it's Discord. Maybe they don't have an online presence at all. Maybe they're all about conference networking. Whatever it is, you have to find the place where that discourse is happening, because it will be happening without you. And you need to, in some way, insert yourself a little bit into that discussion. So you can know what is relevant, what are interesting topics happening. If there's a discussion about your topic, then you need to chime in as the expert and provide insights from your research. That is your opportunity. If you don't know the discussions happening, you will be left out. So I'd encourage you to ask around in your field and find the unique way that your particular colleagues are communicating with one another online. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I know this is an uncomfortable topic, but I think it is so incredibly necessary for you to communicate your research to the world. The truth is that your research is very important, and if you don't tell people about it, they won't know. So we will miss out on all the amazing insights and advancements that you could be offering. Thank you so much for watching to the end. If you liked this video, please consider hitting the like button and comment down below if you're interested in some of those other videos I talked about. In particular, I'm very excited to make a video reviewing the different types of content management systems to build your own website, as well as how to make your own website in 10 minutes. I think I might also do one on headshots. So if any of those are interesting to you, or you would like other topics for me to cover, please comment down below. Thank you so much. Take care.